Welcome to Talk Travel with Heather Tate, North Mississippi's podcast for savvy travelers. Talk Travel with Heather Tate is a weekly podcast that airs every Monday on the Shark 102.3 FM radio station based in Ripley, Mississippi, and is then released as a podcast. Travel advisor and travel enthusiast Heather Tate of Whimsical Destinations gives listeners expert travel tips curated through the years of personal and professional experience. By clicking subscribe, you'll have a new travel tip to add to your collection delivered to your podcast library every Monday. Talk Travel with Heather Tate is brought to you by Sun Bear Studio. Sun Bear Studio is a boutique recording studio in the heart of Ripley, Mississippi. When you record with us at Sun Bear Studio, we can mix, master, register, and publish your music, your podcast, or your family story. Email us when you're ready at sunbear@jc.media.
This program was recorded at Sun Bear Studio in Ripley, Mississippi.
Good morning, Northeast Mississippi travelers. This is Heather with Talk Travel with Heather Tate, and I am so excited to share my adventures and tried and true tips with you. Whether you are also a seasoned traveler, a hopeful traveler, or currently an armchair traveler, meaning you're going to follow along with us from home for now. This is our 173rd episode of Talk Travel with Heather Tate, and this week is all going to be about Thanksgiving travel tips, because after all, it is Turkey Week. Now, according to Samantha Brown, who is a travel expert and one of my personal idols, 100 million people traveled during last Thanksgiving. In fact, the busiest day to fly for the entire year is the Sunday after Thanksgiving. So it may be too late this year to alter your Thanksgiving plans for Thanksgiving, but maybe it's not. It could be too late if you're flying to change plans, but I can help you be more prepared. So that's why I really wanted to talk about this week. And if you are traveling by land, so if you're taking a road trip this Thanksgiving, I have some really helpful tips that will leave you grateful this week. Let's start by air travel. Okay, so here in no particular order, I'm going to give you some of my tips for traveling by air this week. Arrive at the airport extra early. So typically for domestic flights, it's 90 minutes prior to departure. And for international flights, it's 3 hours prior to departure. So you may want to provide an even larger cushion there. If you're choosing to travel during the busiest times of the day, which would be from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. So if your flight happens to fall in that period of time, I'd arrive even earlier, because as we know, we are recovering from the government shutdown and with mandated flights being cut, TSA being restricted, lots of issues with staffing with the airports, from air traffic control to TSA to gate agents. The earlier part of this month was a challenge, to say the least. I'm really glad it is looking better for this week, and we're not in the same place we were 2 to 3 weeks ago. Even still, I want you to prepare to be there by going extra early. Double check your passports and other documents when traveling. So if you're, traveling domestically, make sure that you have your driver's license, the real ID with the star. If you're traveling internationally, double check your passports, make sure that you have the right one, the one that is most up to date and it's valid at least 6 months after travel. Other things that you can do, make sure that if you can, I recommend packing carry-on only. If you're going for Thanksgiving and it's a short trip, 3 to 4 days, there is no reason you couldn't pack everything you need in a small carry-on suitcase and a backpack that can be your personal item. I'm getting ready to travel again in the next week, getting ready to go back to Jamaica, and I will be taking carry-on only for my personal items. It's a little different this time because I'm going to try to bring some relief items to give to people who need it from the hurricane, who are recovering from Hurricane Melissa. So I will take a check bag for that, but for my own personal travel, I take carry-on only. We already talked about the busiest times are between 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. For next year and for any other holiday, book your flights early, because the closer you get to travel time for Thanksgiving week and other holidays, the higher the flight prices will go. and the less availability. So again, if you're just booking your flights this week, you're going to have slim pickings at this point. If possible, book nonstop. I always say it is worth the drive to Atlanta to fly nonstop than to have a connection, even though it's much more convenient. If you're in Northeast Mississippi, Memphis, Birmingham, even Nashville, more convenient, Columbus. But it's not going to be convenient if there's a delay and you miss that connection and you're not there at the table for Thanksgiving dinner. So if you are flying and it is time sensitive that you arrive when you want to arrive and it's a busy time, I recommend booking nonstop when at all possible. Now, even though this is a really busy time for domestic travel, international travel is less crowded. Why? Because we have a very specific holiday for Thanksgiving. Even though there's a Canadian Thanksgiving, it's not the same date as Thanksgiving in the U.S. So not all countries are celebrating Thanksgiving, unlike other major holidays. For example, Christmas and Easter, where those are celebrated in other places for the same dates. So if you're thinking about traveling, you may find that you'll get better deals on flights, and it will be less crowded if you traveled internationally rather than domestic. So keep that in mind for next year. Also, instead of traveling Wednesdays and Sunday, if you can, you want to travel a little bit earlier. So if you're out for the whole week, which seems, more and more common with schools now, you could travel Thanksgiving morning and it will be less crowded than if you traveled Wednesday evening or even Tuesday evening. So if you can, travel a day other than the Wednesday before Thanksgiving and the Sunday after. Also, last tips for flying. If you can get TSA PreCheck or Global Entry, at the very least, if you're traveling internationally, download the mobile passport app, which is free. That can also help you. So having the Traveler, Safe Traveler, Smart Traveler programs will help you get through the TSA lines and customs on your way back in much easier. One last thing, get the travel protection. If it's too late this time and you cannot add it, remember that in the future, especially when traveling holiday weeks. You want to pack your patience and have travel protection. Now for land, fill up on gas prior to Tuesday. Don't wait till Tuesday afternoon when the gas pumps are going to be flooded to fill up. Do a routine check for your car. Check for fluids. Make sure the air in the tire is good. Check your spare. Make sure you have jumper cables. Have your safety kit in your car. Some bottled water, blankets, depending on where you're traveling. Snacks for the car for when you're going to be driving. Also, map out your route. You may know exactly where you're going, but keep an eye out. If you're going to be going through a heavy traffic area, if you're going through a major city, think about the times you're going. So then think about maybe going a little bit earlier, a little bit later to avoid rush hour. If you have to travel by car Tuesday or Wednesday, think about leaving really early in the morning or later in the evening if you're an evening traveler, not an early morning person. Just a few other things. Like we said, if you can, in the future, think about traveling the weekend before Thanksgiving. Then you'll be home for Thanksgiving, and you can have an intimate celebration with your family. But for the big family gathering, if it works for everyone, think about doing it the Saturday or Sunday before Thanksgiving. Also, remember to be kind to fellow drivers on the road. You want to leave the road rage at home. Bring the sweet potato casserole, leave the road rage. And to pack your patience if you're going to be at the airport. Be kind to the airport staff. They're working on the holidays. So a smile, a kind word, please and thank you. Those things go a long way. That's all the time we have for this week of Talk Travel with Heather Tate. I hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving with your family. Remember, life is short. Take the trip. Make those memories with your family. You won't regret it.
This show is made possible by JC Media, LLC in Ripley, Mississippi. JC Media owns the Shark 102.3 Classic Rock FM radio station where the show is hosted, and Sun Bear Recording Studio where the interviews are recorded. We need your feedback and support. If you listen to the podcast on a player like iTunes, Google Podcasts, or Amazon Music, please subscribe to the show and leave us a review. We also have an email in which you can share your feedback. That email is theshark1023@gmail.com. Subscribe to our podcast on your favorite app or stream episodes online at shark1023.com/podcasts. Today's episode was produced by Melinda Marsalis. It was edited by Rick Williams and engineered by Chris Marsalis. The podcast technician is Joyce Grady.